I appreciate it. This is our second class. The first one, we'll do a quick recap because some of you weren't here for the first one. And then we're going to go through some things in the second class. And we have Freya as a student dog. Freya is Mel's dog, personal dog, and she hasn't had much training, so she'll be a good example of probably what not to do. Shreya is 8 months now? Yes. And I have Freya's brother, Mocha, who's much, much bigger than Freya. It's interesting, Mocha took after Papa. Freya is a Beagle Lab Pit Mix, and she was the one of 7 puppies that we got in September that made it through the thing. So let's recap first of what we did last week. And I hope I brought it with me. I didn't think I did. Okay, so we talked about that you get to know the dog that you're going to take out, especially if it's a new dog. Get to know the dog before you try to do too much with them. What are their issues? Are they frightened? Do they like people? Do they like dogs? Do they have any health issues? Do they have allergies to treats? That's really important. If you're going to be working with your clicker and doing treats and stuff, you need to make sure that they don't have allergies to whatever it is you're feeding them. Mel would really appreciate that. And you also need to know, what are their issues? The first couple of days is actually the first week that we bring in a new dog. They need to have that chance to get to know their environment, get to know people that are coming in, and get to know what is expected of them. Some of these dogs that we talked about have come in that have come from horrible places, like Ziggy. You know, he was tied to a car for the first year of his little life. No socialization. He has no idea what the world expects of him. He didn't like the feeling of the vinyl on the floor, so he was jumping from couch to chair to table, because he was just not comfortable. Those things will play into how you are training your dog. For example, if you're trying to teach your dog to lay down and they're not comfortable with the surface you're asking them to lay down on, they're not going to lay down for you. So these are some of the things you need to think about when you're trying to teach a dog to do something. And I encourage you to practice on your own dogs at home. They're great because they're very forgiving and nobody gets to see your mistakes. And again, what we talked about last week, if you make a mistake, it's not going to ruin their training for life. It's just an oops. Okay? We talked about clicker training. So I brought one of these little bungees. They work really well to have on your wrist. That way it's always available. Make sure you put it on the right way, because I go like this and you can't click. So make sure it's on the right way. We talked about last week loading the clicker and what that means. If you have a dog that is unfamiliar with the clicker, you need to teach them that a clicker means good things. So when you're loading a clicker, you become a Pez machine. And so when she hears a clicker, good girl. She needs to know what this means. Good stuff. Okay, so you're loading the clicker. And just walk away a little bit. And timing is everything, okay? If you wait too long when you click, she's not going to know what that means. And if you try to put her in a sit and then click, she's not going to understand what this is all about. So now she's looking at the clicker. Good girl. So right now we're loading the clicker. And we talked about this last week. I'm going to let her get... She's like, what is that? That was a cow. She heard the cow mooing. Oh, good girl. See how she turned around? She heard it. She knows, okay, that thing clicked. I'm going to get something good. So When you first start using a clicker, you've got to load the clicker. Otherwise, they won't have any idea what this means. All right? If you're going to use a clicker, you can use it for everything. I mean, and it's really effective because it totally gives them an exact moment that they did the behavior that you want them to do. So let's say, Freya, I'm going to lure her into a sit. When her butt hits the ground, you click. That exact moment she knows that that's what she gets. Okay? So we're going to lure her into a sit. Her butt hits the ground, you click. Timing is really important. And when you're teaching a dog a new trick, timing so that they know what it is that you're trying to teach them. All right? Being that she knows what the clicker means, she knows that when her butt hit the ground, then that becomes a good thing. And again, we're talking about luring and not shoving the butt down on the ground. Okay? If the dog keeps backing up because you're luring them into a sit, try putting up against the wall. They can't back up against the wall. And eventually, when you put this over their nose and take it towards their butt's going to drop down. And I was too late. Their butt's going to drop down. Come here, Freya. Good girl. You put a treat over the head, butt hits. Good girl. Over the head, butt hits, click. Okay? Clicker is really fun to use, and it trains them really, really fast. Now, you don't have to use a clicker. You could use a word, a cue word like yes or good. Instead of using a clicker, you can do that as long as you load that word so they know what that word means. All right? Same idea. So let's say I got rid of the clicker and I lure her into a sit. Good. I like to use yes. That's what I was trained to do. Lure. Yes. Same idea. You can do that with a word. Good is used a lot, so yes, cue is easier to use. We also talked about luring the dog into a down. Okay, difference between down and off. Okay, we all know that. Down is down on the ground. Off is get off of me or off the furniture, off of whatever. Freya.
Oh.
Off. Okay, Freya, come. Okay, when you do a down, lure her in, or try to get her to do a down, you put her in a sit, you bring the lure down her chest, but her butt popped up. So you're not going to give her a yes cue. Lure down the chest. You try to keep the treat really close. She's getting close. Her butt popped up. Okay. So when they do that, if she goes halfway down, you can click. You're capturing that moment. Okay? And eventually, with work and fewer distractions, she will go all the way down. If I was to teach this, because she's very distracted, okay? Because she's distracted, I would try to do this in a bathroom or someplace that's not, think of your environment. The higher the distractions, the lower the expectations, all right? Taking your dogs outside when you first get here. If they're all barking and being excited and distracting, there's no way you're going to get somebody to sit and wait at the door. They just want out. It's too much. The level of distraction is too high and your expectations are too high. Let's see. Hang on just a second. Mary has a question.
Thank you. What about training a young dog with an older dog who knows the commands, and then they see the older dog doing what you're asking?
That definitely helps, as long as there's not a competition for food.
Okay.
If there's a competition for the treats, you have to make sure that they're not resource guarding. Because if Freya saw this dog over here get a treat, she doesn't understand why she's not getting one. So you have to be careful with the treat situation. But if you're doing it just, in the kitchen and you're cooking dinner or whatnot, and you turn around, if you allow your dogs to be in the kitchen, and they're both sitting nicely, you know, treat both of them at the same time, they will pick up on some of those cues. We also talked about cues. It's the whole body that the dog is looking at. It's not just your hand. So when you're giving them the sit command, and when you're doing this, they're looking at your whole system. And dogs don't generalize, okay? So let's say Claudia is doing this, and Terry is doing this, and the dog only sits for Claudia, not Terry. It's not because it doesn't like Terry, it's because she doesn't understand what Terry is asking of her, okay? So the cue you're giving the dog, if they're not responding to you, it may be because you're doing something else with your body that they don't understand, okay? So think about what your body is saying to them, because they pick up on all the cues. And again, we talked about the hand signal versus the verbal. The only reason we really do verbal, especially at the beginning, is because it's easier for us to understand for us to remember what we're doing. Dogs don't care about the verbal. The hand signal is more important to them. So don't confuse them with both. So when you're teaching a new trick, just use the hand signal, okay? We talked about, let's see, neutral area when you're teaching a dog new tricks. For out here at the ranch, I would use this room. And don't use the play yards because there's people walking around and in and out. Maybe Maddie in her own room, you know. But in the big dog bunkhouse, there's too much going on. Find an area that's just private for you and your dog. And again, know what dog you're training. Have they been to the prison program? If they have, you can just go through what they already know and help them practice. If they're just new brought in and know nothing, you can start with the basics, okay? Sit, down, stay, wait. Okay. Before we get any further, was there anything else I forgot that we talked about last week? Anybody? Okay. So this week, I want to talk about treats. What's a high-level treat? What's a low-level treat? We talked about that a little bit. Your dog will choose what treat they want. For Ziggy, his motivation is the ball. For Freya, her motivation is food. And what food? I mean, Freya might like the Zooks. She might prefer chicken. You know, it depends on what it is. Some dogs don't really care about the Zooks and they want mozzarella cheese. And that's going to make them stand on their head and spin for you. So you want to find that high-level treat. And if it's the ball, it's, you know, if it's treat motivated, it's a whole lot easier because all of us can use treats and we all understand treats. If it's a toy, sometimes it's more difficult. Sometimes dogs love the rope toy, and so they'll do tricks for the rope toy or for the ball or whatever. So you have to figure that out. The sit command, you know, it's basically what we just saw. Down. Please do not push the dog into a sit or push the dog into a down. You're coaxing them, you're lowering them. Because if you're pushing them into that position, they're not learning. They're not using their brain to learn that, all right? Yeah, you're getting them to do what you want to do, but they need to learn how to do it and what to do. So, and it can be frustrating because they're not getting it. Some dogs will get it like that, some dogs won't. The come command, you need with especially your own dogs, how are you going to use that? Are you going to use their name like Freya come? Or are you going to say come Freya? Or are you going to just use come? The prison command is just come and pat your chest. And again, using a small space to begin the teaching. And every time they look at you, and you can start with them looking up at you, and then as they come forward, you know, you greet them. If they don't come, please don't use your mean voice. Because if you think about it, come here, Claudia! is she going to come to me? No, she's going to book it. You know, it's that mean voice. If you got to make it exciting. Yeah, come on, Freya. You know, make it exciting that they want to engage and that, oh, she's going to go do something fun. Don't get mad. Just think about what you're doing. All right. What's my other notes here? Name game. Again, a lot of the dogs that come in don't know their name because we might have just given them a name. Or we might not know what their name was and we have to give them a name. Or they might have had a name and we don't want them to associate that name with a bad experience. So we give them a new name. So you got to do the name game with them. So, Freya. She looked. All right? She knows what that means. So do the name game with them. Freya. Good girl. And be patient. All right? If they don't look at you first, then don't just keep going, Freya, Freya, Freya. You know, she's going to be like, oh, I'm out of here. All right? Don't keep yelling their name at them. It's not going to help. So be patient. Freya. Good girl. So when they look, click, and then they'll come over because they know the clicker means that they're going to get something good. All right? Any questions so far?
I have a question.
Yes.
So are you recommending we not say their name when we're like asking them to sit or to stay or down? We just use hand commands.
Yep.
But with come, we can say their name when we're trying to get their attention.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, you can say their name so that they will look at you. So now the name game was Freya. I said her name.
Yeah, where's my
And then you do the come command. So I'm getting her attention. I'm getting her attention. Oh, wait, first I got to not have her attention. Okay. Nope. She's the one with the treats. Freya. All right. Now I have her attention. Come. She's taken a few steps towards me, and I treat her. All right. So if they might not come all the way to you, but if they take a couple of steps towards you, that's what you're rewarding. Eventually, they will get to you. All right. And then we're talking about a new dog that doesn't know anything. The dogs at the prison, you should just be able to do, you know, get their attention. You might be by calling their name, and then come, and they should come right to you. Again, though, if there's a bunch of dogs over in that corner, you can't expect them to. The idea is to get them to do that, yes, but a lot of our young dogs are not going to because they're going to be, some of them are reactive, some of them are not going to be able to take their mind off of what's going on over there. Okay?
What about canine good citizen elements with prison dogs?
What?
I mean, like, my dogs have all gone through that, so I know the elements.
Right.
Do you want? Can we go over those if we have the time and feel the inclination?
Well, all of the dogs at the prison have been through all the good canine citizen, except for therapy dog stuff, because we don't have the crutches and the wheelchair and the bedpans and stuff like that at the prison. But yes, they know all of those good citizenship hand signals that, you know, we have posted in the dog eat room. The dogs coming out of the prison should know those. And if you can go through those with them, when you're walking them, take them over into a corner of the yard or something and go through those commands with them to keep it fresh. So when they go get adopted, they know it. Some of the dogs that have not kept things fresh, and you go do it with them, they still know it. They still know it, which is pretty cool. Obviously, the guys out there have been doing it with them every day for 8 weeks. Yeah.
When you're teaching,
Wait.
when
Okay.
you're teaching the dog to come and you get her attention, when do you click? When you first get her eyes or when she gets to you?
Okay, so when I call her name,
Yeah.
Freya, come. And then as she's walking towards me, I'm clicking, okay?
You give her 2 clicks.
You're giving it 2 clicks. The click for looking at me and the
Okay.
click for coming towards me.
Got it.
All right? Good girl. No. You're like, I'm confused. And again, you can't, you know, even though you're clicking and you're doing all this, you're not going to mess it up. Don't be afraid of clicking at the wrong time, because you'll get it. It's just a matter of practicing. Because when you've got the leash and the treats and the clicker and everything's kind of, I mean, yes.
Barb, if nothing's working with not treats, I haven't tried the clicker yet, but if nothing's working, when you repeat the command, first of all, how many times would you repeat the command? And do you walk towards the dog to try and kind of lure them to you if they're not coming?
Okay, if they're not coming, you need to entice them to come towards you. Don't walk towards them, because then you're teaching them, oh, if I stay here, they'll come to me. Okay? So if she's not going to come to me, then I'm going to get excited. And I'm going to go, come on, let's go, come on. And you get stupid, silly, and have them coming towards you. And then, good girl, yes, a good girl. And make it something fun and exciting. Okay?
I've fallen into the trap with my spawn of Satan of holding out a treat and saying come, and doing the command and then holding out a treat to lure her in.
Lure.
Is that bad?
No,
Okay.
it's not bad. Bacon works really good. But make sure that she's not getting that until she moves forward towards you, okay? Don't you come to her. Make sure that she comes to you. And if you're having trouble with it, do it in the bedroom. Make her area smaller. And then when she's at 80% in that small room, then expand to the living room, or then expand to the back deck. So if you got her on 5 acres and there's a squirrel up at the tree, she's not going to come, okay? So, and it also is going to depend on their prey drive. If you've got a dog with a high prey drive, they're going to be chasing birds and butterflies and all kinds of fun things. And so you better have a really good reason for them to come to you. Okay, so if you're having trouble with her, tighten her area, make it not as exciting, and reward her for coming. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Doing good. Okay. I want to talk about 4 on the floor when they jump on you. Okay? We have some dogs that jump and jump and jump and jump, and the reason they're jumping is because they want attention. All right? And we've talked about turning, and you're taking yourself away from them, because what they want is your attention. And so if Freya was jumping on me, sometimes when you turn, they continue to jump on you. And if you're in that training mode and you have your clicker ready and they know what the clicker means, and you turn away and you start walking away, when their 4 feet hit the ground, you click, turn, and reward. Okay? So that they know they're going to get that attention, thank you, when their feet hit the floor. Okay? If they're jumping on you and they're still jumping on your back and they're being totally over the top. Who was it that used to do that?
Jack did it.
Jack, Sydney, okay. They continue jumping, Magic, and they're still jumping on your back. You can walk into them, and it's going to rock them off their balance because they don't like being on their back feet and walking into them. You're being a little bit more assertive that way. But again, as soon as their feet hit the floor, then you're going to turn and reward. They need to know what it is you want them to do so that they can get your attention. All they're wanting is your love. So let them know what they need to do so that they can get it. And like I said, if you got your clicker in hand, it's easier to reward that because their feet have hit the floor. And you're like, boom. And you're right here. Oops.
Where do you get those little squirrels?
These?
No,
These.
Yeah.
These you can get anywhere they sell keys. Walmart, Home Depot, Swain's, Coastal, anybody has them.
Where do you get the clickers?
The clickers we have in the office. We've ordered a bunch of them. They're $1 a piece. If you want a clicker, talk to Mel. We just want to, we can continue to order them, but we don't, if you donate $1. And then just have them with you. And you don't need one of these. I mean, I have mine in my jacket pockets and my pant pockets, but it keeps it right here, access. And if you've got the leash and all this other stuff going on, it's right here. So it's nice to have. Some people tie it to the leash, and so they've got it right there as well. Any questions about off? Okay, off, first down. What's down mean? Down means they get down on the ground. Off means get off of me, get off furniture, get off the table. Yes.
Is there a hand signal for off?
I don't think so. Nope.
Okay.
It's just turning your back to them. And when they get off, they're off. If you're telling them to get off the tabletop in there, sometimes, or like Milo, where he's up on top of the wall, you're not going to want to tell Milo off because you don't want him to jump. But yeah, wait.
Hold on a minute. Oh my God.
He was really good at that.
Yeah. So,
He's getting better.
you know, he is. He's getting better. Stay versus wait. Okay. Stay means you're putting them in a sit. They're staying there, and they stay there until you come back. Okay. Then they know they don't get to get their butt off the ground. They're going to stay right there. Wait is different. Wait, you're going to put them in a wait. Like you're going to go out the door, you put them in a wait while you get the door, your jacket or whatever on, and you open the door, and then it's, let's go. And they anticipate moving forward with you, or they anticipate you calling them out of that wait. Wait, the only way I can remember it is wait is give me a minute, and stay is stop, don't you dare move. All right?
How do you release them?
Wait.
How do you release them from those two?
Okay, so a wait, you're going to call them. They're going to come. All right?
Okay.
Or if they're on a leash and they're in a wait, then it's with me and you're going to go on your walk. If they're in a stay and you've got them sitting there and they're in a stay, then you come back to them, good dog, and then let's go. All right? So you're touching them, you're rewarding them for staying there. And again, the stay in the wait, you have to start in a small, enclosed environment where there's no distractions. Because like a dog, Freya, Ziggy, any of those young dogs, they have the memory of a nano gnat, you know. They're just gonna like, whoa, you know. So make sure that their environment, there's no distractions, and then start adding distractions to it. Don't expect to go in the backyard, put them in a stay or a wait and have all this stuff going on. They're not going to be able to do it. And if they don't know you, they're not going to do it. So as a volunteer, don't expect these dogs to do it for you, because who are you? You know, they should, but not all of them will, because they're young and they're Tarzan dogs and they have all this stuff going on in their little lives, and they may not do it for you, but don't get mad. Okay, just continue to repeat.
One thing, you know, I fostered forever and a day.
Right.
And I fostered in a big city, and we didn't have a fence in the front of our house. So one of the first commands we taught them was waiting at the door until we gave them the, we would say, go through, and they could, or were allowed to
Right,
walk through the door.
right.
And the main purpose was to keep them from jetting out and
Yes.
being gone and my hunting this dog forever. So I have thought at times maybe if we did that when they're going into the kennel room, make them sit while we open the door, and then we walk through, and then we give them the command and they come through.
You can do
But
that
maybe
with,
it'd be too hard.
you can do that with any door you want to take them through, even the doors coming out into the play yards. However, if there's dogs barking and there's distractions going on, the chances of them doing it, you're setting them up for failure. So you have to know the dog, and you have to know, am I setting this dog up to fail? Am I expecting too much? Okay, you really have to think about that. At home, it's different because you're in control of your environment.
We usually do it with two people and the dog has
Right,
a leash
yes,
on. So
yes.
the dog is safe.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that I always taught them was stay, because if they were running in a direction they shouldn't, I'd give them a stay, they would stop, and boy, they get rewarded quick. Because I didn't want them going near the street or anything.
Right. And that's why the come command is so important.
Yeah.
If they're jetting off to go fight with somebody, and you can either do the leave it command or come, and if they know it, they'll come back to you. There was another question over here.
Just a quick comment. I taught Bella, because my dog is very food motivated.
Yes.
She learned the wait command waiting for her food.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Because that was the only way she got her food. She
I do
had
that
to
with
sit,
Mocha.
She had to wait.
Yeah.
And then when she was sitting and she was staying put,
Yeah.
then her food went down and she
Yeah.
got released. So
And
if you've got a food motivated dog,
Yes,
sometimes that's really helpful.
absolutely. And I
And
do
I
that
make
with
all of
all
our
my
guys do
dogs
that,
at home, at my house. All my dogs, they have to sit and wait. And they're waiting. Poor Mocha, he'll sit there and he'll wait, and his drool is just falling out of his mouth. And I can't put him in a wait very long because I have a puddle on the floor. And so then I put the food bowl down and say, okay. And I release him from that so he can eat his food. Yes.
Could you possibly help us a little bit of an example with Milo? He's very slippery, and when we put him away in his room, I noticed a lot of people, including myself, having problems with getting him to stay in, and sometimes he gets his head hit with the door when you're on your way out. And I've tried and wondered about this. I used the clicker training, and I had him stay. I gave him the stay command, gave him positive with treats.
Right.
But I felt like when I walked out the door that I was then giving him a negative result.
Yes, exactly. That's very, very good. Okay, so Milo's situation is he wants to be with you.
Yes.
He's not being naughty.
No.
He doesn't want you to leave him. And that's why he's trying desperately to get out the door when you get out the door.
Yes.
So when you take him in the room, you need to make that positive thing instead of a scary thing because he knows you're leaving. And unfortunately, we're always on a time crunch and we're
Yes.
trying to do it quickly. So if possible, if you can go in the room with him and sit down with him for a little while, run him through some of the commands and give him some treats and pet on him so that that room is a nice thing. And then when you leave, throw the treats on the floor, so let him go find it. So then you can leave. Okay, so that way you're leaving, he knows he's going to get a handful of treats on the
Great.
floor. Okay? And make sure they kind of scatter so he's looking for them. All right? He's still not going to be happy that you left, but at least he knows when you're leaving. And most of you guys do that anyway. When you're leaving a dog in the room, you throw in a few treats. And that way it's not such a scary, awful thing.
Great.
Is that okay?
Yes.
And now another command that I use regularly, for example, if I'm training or whatever, we use the free dog command. When we're all finished, it's fun and games. Free dog.
Yeah.
And is that okay?
That is similar to good girl, let's go.
Yeah.
And it's a different word.
It's like-
It's a different word. So we do have the free hand signal that they do at the prison, and it's up on the wall. So it's just a matter of the dog knowing the word. You know, it's a word that might confuse them because the dogs at the prison don't hear that. Okay. Okay, so there's the 3 Ds when you're teaching stay or wait. And the duration, the amount of time you expect the dog to stay there. That's huge. When they're first learning the stay command or the wait command, it might be nanoseconds for them to wait, all right? What's the distraction level in the area, and then the distance, how far can you go? So when you first put your dog into a sit, Freya, good girl. Okay, now again, don't click her for her name, and then I'm going to put her in a sit. And now she doesn't know wait, but if she did know wait, I put her in a wait, and then you do maybe 2 steps, and hopefully before her butt comes up, and then call her to you. Okay, you might only get a half a step before her butt comes up. So the less the distraction, you might need to do it in your bathroom, or in a little tiny room, or in a closet someplace, or in the isolation room in a little closet where there's no distractions at all, and start small, and then you might get 3 steps back, you know, and the more you do it, repeating over and over 25 times a day, the more you do it, the more they'll get it. And then you can get further away. And then you come. You call them into the, you know, when they're wait, you call them, and they come to you, you know, treat, treat, treat. And the same thing with the stay. You put them in a stay, you might only get 2 clicks back, and then you're going to come back and keep before their butt comes up, all right? You might even just get your hands off of them and then get back. And so don't expect a lot, all right? Don't expect a lot when you're first working with these dogs. The prison dogs, you can expect more, but again, what is the environment? If they're first back from prison and they've only been here for a day or 2, you know, this environment's another crazy place to be. And so don't expect a lot. As they get used to it, you can expect more from them, okay? How are we doing on time? Any questions so far? No? Okay. How are we doing on the clickers? We talked about clickers last week. How are we doing on clickers? Are we getting it? Is it frustrating? Is it...
I've been using it a lot with the reactive dogs, like Maddie and Onyx, with Leave It. And I've seen really positive results from it when they just start to, like when you're walking by a fence and maybe Wilson's in the fence and Onyx, I can read her body language. She's just starting. I'll say leave it, and the minute she turns and looks at me, I click. And my timing's not great, but it's been getting better.
Good, good, perfect, perfect.
I mean, and that works in the land of squirrels and stuff, but we don't have that here. But I will tell you, that's the only way I could walk my dogs with squirrels.
I mean,
is saying leave it.
Yep. And the dogs at the prison know leave it. And so for Maddie, that's great. And Onyx and Nikki, you know, when she gets to playing too rough, and I'll say leave it, and when she looks at me, I'll click. I'll click.
Loaded that clicker well.
And then she knows to come to me. Okay, they don't have to come to you to click. You're clicking for what it is you're trying to get them to do. And if you're saying leave it, and they stop and look at you, that's when you're clicking for the leave it command. Okay.
Is the leave it the same as drop it?
No.
Okay, because I'm not seeing the leave it.
There's not a signal, hand signal for leave it.
Okay.
Drop it is when you're doing the ball, or if they've got a dead mouse, or something that you don't want them to have. That's drop it.
Okay.
Okay, or a not dead mouse. That's drop it. Okay.
Okay.
Leave it is a verbal cue.
Okay.
It's all verbal, because if they're into something and they're going to go for it, you could be over here dancing and singing and waving your arms around, and they're not going to see you. They've got to hear the verbal command. And all the prison dogs know leave it. Okay? Any?
Add watch to help get their attention when you want them to leave it.
So we did watch, we
Or
did
look.
look. Yeah, we did
Excuse
look.
me, I
Yeah, it's
apologize.
okay. We did look last week, and we talked about getting their attention. And then we've talked about walking them on the trail and doing touch, where they come up. Remember last week we talked about touch a little bit. So when Freya, come here. I know Mama has treats. And I'm almost out. So when you're on a trail and you have a dog or a reactive dog that's coming towards you, and you're teaching your dog to touch, and they touch your hand and you have to give them a treat, and then you walk and they come up and touch your hand and you treat them, and so that way they're focusing on you and not that thing that's going by on the trail. Okay, so there's all kinds of things. Go on YouTube and watch some of the clicker training stuff. Really good information, and it's for me, I learn visually, and it's nice to see somebody doing stuff and how it's done. Any other questions?
Is there a don't pull command for on the leash?
Is there a don't pull?
Yeah.
With me.
Yeah, basically you're standing still when they start pulling, and they look back at you, and you tell them to come
Okay,
with
that's
me.
it.
It's with me.
With me.
They come back into position with you, and then you can go, all right? If they start pulling and you're letting them pull, you're reinforcing that behavior, all right? So you might only get 10 feet.
So it's with me.
It's with me.
Okay.
Yeah. You stop. They look back like, what are you doing? How come we're not going anywhere? And you do this with me. They come back, and then they get going in. Some of the prison dogs will come back with you, and they'll sit. They'll get ready to go. And then you, with me, let's go. Okay? But the prison dogs know this. The other dogs that have not been to prison, so you're going to teach them to walk on a leash. All right? And we haven't gotten to that point yet. And again, when you're teaching a dog to walk on a leash, you start in an area there's no distractions. And I, with Chase, I had to start in my bathroom with a leash. And my bathroom is just like the size of this table, you know? and he'd start to pull on it, and I'd just hold it, and he'd stop, and he'd look at me. And as soon as that leash got a little bit loose, then I'd click, and he figured it out. Yes.
So once you start using a clicker, training your dog, are you going to always use the clicker then? Is
No,
it-
no. Once they know it,
Okay.
you don't need it.
Okay.
It's just like once
Just
they
for
know
the
it,
beginning.
you don't need treats anymore.
Uh-huh.
Once they, I mean, most of these prison dogs, unless the distraction level is really high, then they're going to need a clicker.
Okay.
Or treats, I'm sorry, not clicker. If the distraction level goes up, then the treats come back in. If the distraction level's down, or if they're really, really good, then you don't even need treats. And what they do at the prison is they phase out the treats when they're getting ready to come out. So we know when we test them that they truly know these commands without being rewarded with treats. Because there's a lot of people out there that are not going to be doing the Pez trip with their dogs.
Right.
So,
Just a quick question. Some of our dogs really do pull when they're coming out to play and stuff. Is it unreasonable to expect them to behave themselves when they've been inside all morning and they want to come out to the yard and
yes.
they're dragging you down the road like
Yes.
a piece of trash?
You need to just let them drag you down the
Okay.
road. I know I'm saying that because it's rewarding bad behavior, but to expect them
Well,
to
that's what I would. The
Yeah.
expectation just may be too high. Now,
Yeah.
walking back to the room later,
that's different.
that's okay.
That's
That's what I
different.
needed to know.
Yeah, and when you're walking after they've been out and they've gotten a little bit of exercise and you're walking around the property and they know they're in walk mode and they've got their harness on, they know they're in training mode when they have their harness on, and so then they need to be expected to do more on that part. But when you're just getting them from A to B, just get them from A to B. And typically when you're taking them out to the yard to go potty or getting them out right away, you're not putting their harness on for a lot of the dogs. And so you're just getting them from A to B, and they know they're not in training mode, they're just going out to get out. And in this environment, you cannot expect them to sit at the door and wait. I mean, you can try to get them to sit at the door and wait while you put their harness on. That would be great, and not be jumping up and down and being really excited. Yeah.
Because I had Magic and Jack, two really big dogs, what I started doing, because they could pull me over and drag me, I used a long line between the door and the big yard, because that's when they would take off for the big yard from that door, and I was going, oh my gosh. So now I had to make sure there weren't other dogs around, but the long line allowed them to get there and me still have them, but not get dragged.
Dragged, yeah. And it's all about management and knowing your dog again. What when you're pulling a dog out of a room, what is that dog going to do? You have to know what's that dog? Who are they? What are they going to do? Are they going to be really excited to see you? Are they going to be instant wanting to go to somebody's door and bark, bark, bark? What are they going to do?
Is there some kind of a notation which dogs have been to prison and should know this?
On the whiteboard over by the door that you walk in, there's a list of dogs that are in prison, in the doghouse, and in foster care. And I don't know the ones that are in the doghouse if they have a notation. So we can do CB for the ones that are in the doghouse, so you know. Or we could do it actually on their whiteboard on the door, so that you know that they've been to prison. That would be helpful. Okay, we can do that.
Question, with dogs that have been in the prison program and relate to the harness being, this is serious
Working mode.
training, working mode, am I making a mistake when I let Sydney and Maddie, they don't get playtime first sometimes? Sometimes we take them right out for a walk, and I let them have length on the leash to go potty and to smell.
That's okay.
Is that okay?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
And when you, because they're in the free smell it up zone.
Okay.
But when you get ready into the walk zone, that's when you know, get them
Okay.
into that mode and get the treats out and get
Okay,
ready to go.
great.
And they're going to know. I mean, at the prison, a lot of them are hooked up and they're walked down the halls and out to the yard so they can get out there and go potty and first thing in the morning. And some of them will make them sit and wait, but a lot of them just, they know they need to get them out. They don't lift their leg up on a wall because it's taking too long. So it just kind of depends on the dog again. But yeah, no, you're not. Because like you said, like Maddie, you know, some dogs don't get yard time right off the get-go. They've got to go out and smell it around. And sometimes with that, you can put a long line on them, and that way they know they're in sniffing mode. And they've got some free movement.
Good. That's it.
And then put the short leash on them when they're in training mode. Okay, that might be a good signal for them so that they don't get confused. Any other questions? Okay. Continue to work on your clickers. If you have any questions or issues, please call me or text me or email me or whatever. If you don't have a clicker and you want to play with one, let Mel know because we've got them in the office. And wait.
On the command, when the dog's pulling and you stop, what was the command?
Okay, you stop
Yeah.
and they're pulling and they look at you with me. So you're basically showing them to get back into position.
So you do an
So
arm
you're
swing?
circulating.
When do you click? Do you click at all?
You can click when they get into position. Yeah. If it's a new dog here and they've not been to prison, when they stop and they look at you and the leash gets loose, this is part of learning to walk on a leash, which we'll work on next week. Then you can click when they put little, you know, if you got a little smile in the leash, that way they quit pulling, they're not, you know, they're back in, and then you can get them back into the mode. Does that make sense, or is that totally confusing?
No, it's not confusing. I'm just thinking in terms of Hamilton,
Hamilton.
the little
Oh, okay.
hunter.
So he's not been to prison.
No.
So what you're going to do with him is when you stop and he looks at you and he starts coming towards you, then you can click. Okay? So that means he's not pulling anymore, he's putting a loose leash. And that's what you want, is him not to pull. He doesn't have to be right here, especially right off the get-go. But he's letting the leash be loose, and he's not pulling, and that's what you want him to do.
Okay.
You might have to sit
try
there,
it.
okay? You might have to sit on a bench and let him sniff around and figure out, and as soon as he comes towards you, you click,
Okay.
okay?
That makes
And then
sense.
treat. And then, you know, if you stand up and he starts pulling, you sit back down. And you might not go anywhere. You might just have a nice sit on a bench. But eventually he'll catch on. He'll figure it out. Trust me.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm going to make a video.
I have a trick. I freeze peanut butter in the spoon part of a long-handled wooden spoon. And it's the same thing really as the clicker and the treat.
Yeah.
It's just easier for me. When the dog gets back in position, they get a lick. And I was known as the lady with the spoon for years.
Yeah.
And I had a collection of peanut butter spoons in my freezer. So I did that with Jack, and we would go round and round the backyard. I didn't take him anyplace else.
But that was a
Very
environment that's confined.
Yes.
He's bored with it. It's nothing new. It's, you know, and same idea as a clicker, because he's back in position and you let him have a lick, or a treat. It's the same idea. It's just a peanut butter spoon treat. And, you know, you can get creative. So, okay.
If you want a spoon, I have a lot of them.
No, they're not. I don't let them chew it. They know the lick.
Any more questions? All right. Thank you, guys. This is great. Thanks for coming next week. We'll continue on. If you have questions for me or things that you really want to know about, and you want to make sure that I hit on those things, you know, either email me or text me or let me know and make sure that I bring them up. One more thing. If you have a dog that resource guards, and we do have some that we do, we've had some volunteers that have helped get us these books. We're using these books in our next training session at the prison. It's a really good book, Jean Donaldson. We will have some here at the ranch that you can check out. We'll have some extras. And if you've got a dog that's resource guarding, I would highly recommend you take a look at this book. And it actually has step-by-step in here of what to do and how to do it. And it's very user-friendly, and I'm excited. One of the guys at the prison, his mom sent it to him because we have a little Raleigh out there that's a resource guarder, and we knew how to do it, but we never had a step-by-step program for particular resource guarding. And when he showed me this, I'm like, yes! So I've got this book. If you have a dog that's a resource guarder, you might want it for your own library, but if you just want to learn about it, it's a good idea to check this out, and don't keep it for too long because there'll be people standing in line to get it. Okay? Okay. Thank you.